Oh, no!
Why did the Joker meet with you? It has to do with the gangster murders, doesn't it? He thinks you're involved. Why?
I don't know.
That's not the answer I want.
Welcome to the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. Your adventure into the world of comic book movies starts here.
Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another adventure of the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. My name is Travis.
And I'm Patrick with a special guest today.
Scott Carelli from duelinggenre.com. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. Welcome back.
Of course. Yeah.
It's been a while. We had Scott on for Star Trek 3.
Oh, wow. That was
years ago.
Yeah. Both in your podcast and literally.
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
Decades ago in your podcast.
Time was when Scott Carelli came around. We'd talk about the Star Treks.
This is different from Star Trek.
A little bit. Yeah, today we are here for Batman: Mask of the Phantasm.
Yes.
Oh, I've been looking forward to this one.
I'm relieved that this movie was released in theaters, even if it was for like a week, because it means you guys get to talk about it.
Yeah. We actually, Patrick and I were just kind of talking about that, looking at when it was released officially, and it's like, yeah, I can't remember how long it was in theaters, but they must have just got it in there, you know.
I've heard tell from like Paul Dini in like interviews and things that it opened on Christmas Day and it bombed so hard that most theaters dropped it before the week was over.
Oh, ouch.
Like because there was like some other movie that was doing really well. I don't know what opened.
Sure.
Christmas Day 1993, but something else was doing really, really well, and they wanted the
extra screen.
Yeah, the extra screens,
Man.
right? Yeah.
Huh.
So it wasn't even out long enough to like get a word of mouth. By the time people heard about it, it was gone.
Yeah. I mean, and that would be hard in 1993 to have a movie out based on a, kids cartoon on. I mean, at that time it was started out as a Saturday morning cartoon and then was bumped up to Sunday prime time for a little while, and then I don't know how long before it made the 4:30 afternoon, before I guess syndication that would have come later. But
yeah, I didn't get to see this in theaters when I was a kid, but I love hearing the stories of like that whole sort of gang of writers who were working on this show. I love hearing all the stories about how they got this movie made and how they had to like remake it halfway through to like add animation to the sides to make it letterbox.
oh yeah,
yeah, because they were making it for a direct-to-video. I don't know. It's pretty crazy that this happened. Though its failure is really like par for the course for Warner Brothers Animation, I guess, because they ended up doing the same thing to Iron Giant.
Sure.
And I think Quest for Camelot was another one of theirs that didn't do very well. So
Quest for Camelot is the one that made Warner Brothers pull all the marketing for Iron Giant, because they lost their faith basically in that, and so that's why Iron Giant essentially tanked, because Warner Brothers didn't spend anything on marketing. So
yeah, well, they certainly didn't spend any marketing this one either.
I can't imagine.
Looking at December of '93, same release date was Tombstone. Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer.
That might have been the one.
Probably, yeah.
Or Sister Act had a heck of a third week. Sister Act 2, I should say.
Oh, okay.
And Grumpy Old Men, another contender. Solid movie.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I want to say it was Grumpy Old Men actually that did it. Because that title rings in my ear like matching to the story that I remember.
The grumpy old men that killed Batman.
Yeah.
Who acts like a grumpy old man.
Yeah. Patrick, you got any taglines for us?
We got one.
No? Okay.
I don't think they cared.
Yeah.
We got The Dark Knight fights to save Gotham City from its deadliest enemy.
Mm.
Not
I don't know
entirely
that that's
accurate.
true.
Yeah, that doesn't seem.
That seems like they're just like, yeah, that's what Batman does.
Yeah, we'll
fights
find
for
out.
I
Gotham.
don't. I'm fairly convinced that the marketing team hadn't even seen the movie or knew what the plot was when they came up with that.
Yeah.
It's like some generic Batman thing.
Guess they use The Dark Knight. That's cool.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
This was like a year and a half after Batman Returns, right?
Well, I got the
Roughly?
list right in front of me. Batman Returns was June of
Summer 92?
June of 92. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
about a year and a half, yeah. And then the animated series itself started in September of 92, so you really only had
Wow.
just over 1 year worth of the animated series before this aired, but
But if I'm not mistaken, they were commissioned for everything of Batman the Animated Series prior to getting the renewal for New Batman Adventures, where the animation style changed.
Sure.
So I think they were they had like those initial 65 episodes done already before doing this, and then later Sub-Zero, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think this was like they were done with the show, and then were asked to do this.
yeah, that sounds about
And
right.
so it almost feels like a series finale in a way.
And yeah, I don't want to give away notes that I've got on the very end of this movie, but yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
of course.
Do you remember your first time seeing this, or like kind of your experience with it, or your history with it?
I don't remember my first time seeing it.
Yeah.
I know that my mom probably just bought it for me. Well, I don't know, to shut me
Sure.
up and put me in front of the TV. You know.
Yeah.
Also, I loved that show, and it wasn't like you could watch it whenever you wanted. You could only watch it when it was airing because they didn't have any like home video releases
Yeah.
to my memory. And so I think she got me this, and so I wore it out. I mean, I watched that clamshell
Yeah.
VHS, over and over and over again, which is interesting in retrospect because this isn't the most like kid-friendly movie. Not to
No.
say that it's like inappropriate, but it's not paced very well for a kid, and it's about a lot of like mature themes that are going to go right over your head as a kid.
Old gangsters and
Yeah.
yeah.
But I still remember, loving it. I think that a big part of my, for those of you who don't know, like I have a theme park podcast, and I'm a big theme park guy, and I think the world of the future in this is a big part of why that sort of just became part of my DNA.
Sure.
Of liking all of that stuff, because it's probably every section in the world of the future is probably my favorite parts of this movie.
Okay.
I just aesthetically and everything, and of course I love what it represents, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, I wore that clamshell VHS out.
Yeah.
I loved it, and watched it all the time. And I remember when Sub-Zero came out, I was so excited because I was like, oh man, something as good as
Right.
as good as Mask of the Phantasm, and it's like no, it's not.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like it's not. I didn't know why this one felt different at the time. Of course, now in retrospect, we know that it's because this was theatrically released and had a $5 million budget.
Yeah.
But and Sub-Zero was a direct-to-video TV special,
Right.
essentially.
Yeah.
So like this is just a very, very, very expensive thing, but it's special, and ever since watching it as a kid, I watched it all the time as a kid, and I had fond memories of it, but I didn't watch it again until I don't know, well into my mid to late 20s. Sometime
Sure.
I bought the DVD and rewatched it, and then was just kind of taken aback by how good this is. So I'm excited to talk about it because I have really fond memories. What about you guys?
I don't think I saw this in theater, and I don't. Now it makes sense. I don't remember any build up to this movie coming out. I don't remember hearing about it beforehand or being excited about. I remember more the anticipation for the home release, and once I saw that, like just as you said, that clamshell VHS, like that sticks out in my memory of the kind of first memories of this movie is that particular casing that they I always thought was reserved for Disney movies, but I saw it for the first time. I was at a babysitter's house, and she put it on. So I didn't own this movie really. I mean, until buying the DVD, just I think in a bargain bin, 10 years ago maybe, just to own it that way.
That ugly cardboard
yeah.
snap case thing.
Yep, that's the one. But yeah, this was one that I really enjoyed right off the bat. No pun intended. Oh, I hate myself. But didn't watch it a lot, and occasionally they would air it on maybe Cartoon Network. They would air this movie every now and then. That was kind of a big deal, but yeah, it wasn't ever present. Kind of like you said, at that time, it's not on demand, everything. So, yeah, I always had a big fondness for this one when I could watch it. So, what about you, Patrick?
Well, I just watched it about 9 hours ago.
Okay.
Never seen it. I mistakenly thought it was a direct to like TV kind of or direct to video kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I just didn't pay it much mind.
Well, you weren't really a big animated series watcher much, were you?
Not at this time because I
Yeah.
was trying to pretend I was a teenager, even though I wasn't.
Right.
So I was, in that awkward stage of getting rid of baby stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I got into like the Justice League and
Right.
stuff like that later. But for this, I mean, I was aware of like the box art, like the Mask of the Phantasm, like that mask itself. But yeah, never really bothered seeing it. I heard it was good from people, but
Yeah.
I just never got around to it, and it's like never on TV. So yeah, I mean, this was the first time I've seen it.
Yeah. That might make it even more interesting,
I have a feeling I'm going to be the odd man out on this one.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
But we'll see.
Yeah. I've got some feedback from a couple listeners that I want to share. We've got from Lynn Workman over on the Facebook group, says, I got to see it in theater when it came out. Loved Batman the Animated Series, but getting to see it up on the big screen and with a new character was a lot of fun. Like the character design. I think he's talking about the Phantasm herself. I think it was the first time I had ever seen Bruce/Batman ask his parents for forgiveness for being happy. That was pretty emotional. That was a pretty emotional moment. And says, really remember digging the movie poster when I first saw it around as well. Here we go. From Jeff Hamill. Andrea was a real interesting character. She connects to the women from the live-action films, yet another love of Bruce's life. She kind of fits what John and Niall over at Bat Minute wish Chase Meridian had turned out to be. Another persona with a secret identity, though not as an antagonist for Batman. On the non-plot side, I like the fight in the model city. Felt like an old-school Godzilla fight or King Kong. I half expected Batman to climb the tallest building and swat at the planes. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into actually talking about the movie. I want to start with this. It kind of opens with this CGI, kind of slowly flying through the city, and I found out later that this animation of flying through Gotham was created for the animated series, and it sounds like they needed something to throw at the beginning of this movie. They were going to add this as the new opening for the show, probably like a season 2 opening for the show to get rid of the original like animated opening, but for some reason they used it here in the movie instead, and
It was to push over the length into feature length.
Could have been, yeah.
It wasn't long enough.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Well, that's what Paul Dini has said.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. They added it because it was too short.
Okay.
They had to get it pushed over the 70-minute
Gotcha.
mark. Yeah.
It's one of those things that the CGI isn't terrible, so I don't really knock it for like not holding up. The thing that I didn't care for was at the very end of it doesn't build up to anything. You don't pull back and reveal a grand Gotham skyline. It does, however, like at the end of the animation, it switches over to like a hard cut over to a painted Gotham skyline. But it's like the two aren't connected really. It doesn't feel like I said, like it doesn't. I think they wanted.
It feels tacked on.
Yeah. Like I think they wanted it to be like when you're flying through the logo in Batman '89, where you pull out and finally reveal that it's a the bat symbol. Obviously, you're not going to do that here, but I feel like it should have built to something. Like it just seems like it was an animation test that didn't have an ending and it just stops. So that's
right. Yeah, it wasn't put into the movie for artistic reasons.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I'm wondering now if that's why I was turned off by the animation from the start. Like, I don't know what it is with this era.
Yeah.
But everything looks like Animaniacs to me.
Okay.
Like that kind of over-exaggerated kind of animation that's... I'm not sure how to put it, but like when there's blood, it makes me notice more because it's just... I know it's animated, but it just looks fake. It just looks cartoony to me as opposed to like animation coming out of Japan or something.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know, like Akira we watched, which is like an insane level, but
yeah.
I don't know. There's something about this era of animation with Warner Brothers that, and I always associate with Animaniacs for some reason, probably 'cause it's around the same time.
Like sometimes the characters themselves that will make facial expressions that are very cartoony. So I kind of know what you mean. It's a weird mix of like super serious and that what they called the dark deco, the sky, the buildings and the aesthetics of the city itself, and then you have people mixed in that it can be a little cartoony sometimes. But I mean I
got over it, but
sure.
Like right off the bat I just was like, oh,
gotcha.
I remember this era. Like it's dated.
Yeah.
To me. It's a specific point in animation that I wasn't a huge fan of, apparently.
Gotcha. The thing that I liked about this era of like watching really the animated series, like it didn't feel like an old, Filmation cartoon, like a Scooby-Doo or a Masters of the Universe or anything like that, where it's like, well, I know that element in the background is going to be a plot point because it's animated different and it's,
Yeah.
But
that's funny you use that reference because I have a note about Scooby-Doo later.
So it kind of opens up on you've got this character Chucky Saul, and right off the bat he gets it's a meeting that he's taking with some goons, and you got Batman's silhouette showing up, and he breaks up this meeting, and just it's nice to see Batman right off the start of a Batman movie. You don't have to wait 20 minutes to see him like some other movies. And there's one really cool thing I liked when he's fighting these goons and he's chasing after Chucky Saul, and there's a goon laying underneath a table and he's kind of reaching for his gun, and you're kind of expecting Batman to kick the gun out of the way, but instead he just firmly steps on the table just to kind of put the guy out.
No, he stomped on that table. It was pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, okay. Let's do this, Bats.
I love that. The animation is very silly in that moment, and it tickles me. I don't know. I really like that. Just steps on him.
Yeah. I noted as well, like it's under 4 minutes, and the Phantasm also shows up. So it's Chucky Saul like running away from Batman, and he's in the parking garage, and just there's the Phantasm. So it's kind of funny, like. Phantasm is never called the Phantasm. It's really just they probably came out.
Yeah, it's usually Batman most of the time. confusion.
Yeah. But it's funny that the character, we all know as Phantasm is just a kind of a marketing term, really.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it's I feel like at some point they probably wanted to call this like Mask of the Phantom because like like Phantom is like that could be anybody.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I don't know what this is. It's a Phantom. So it's Mask of the Phantom, and then I bet somebody at Universal or somebody was like, no, you can't use Phantom. Or that maybe even just the Warner Brothers legal team was like, no, you better not use Phantom. Can you call it Phantasm?
Right.
Because that's not copywritten by anyone.
There was once it's Chucky running away from the Phantasm, it's this nice little action piece between these two. It's really kind of I think a really cool action piece with him with the car and trying to run her down, and it's like then you kind of remember Batman wasn't having any trouble with the goons that he was fighting. So where's Batman? So I wish they would have kind of, I don't know, either just leave it with him fighting a big goon, and just so that we know that it's going to take him a few minutes, So there's really no reason that Batman wouldn't be right on this, on the scene here, right away.
Maybe you got off at the wrong level of the parking garage?
Yeah.
You don't know.
It's easy to get lost on those
That's
things.
true. Yeah.
And spoiler alerts, you just said her.
Well, yeah.
Do they in their shenanigans in the parking garage, does Chucky go down a level or up a level at any point? Because that might explain, like, it took him a second to find them.
Don't believe so. I think he stays on the same level. She gets distracted by a car coming in from another level, and that gives Chucky a chance to run away. But no, I don't think they switch levels at any point. He switches levels and buildings pretty soon.
Right. Right.
Which I really like. And I couldn't remember watching it. Like he goes, tries to run down the Phantasm, goes, somehow basically, well, she jumps the last second. He goes through the wall and sails out into another building. And I could not remember if Chucky lives or dies or shows back up. I remembered Batman going to a hospital to pay someone a visit, and I was thinking it was him. So then here in a few minutes, when another mob boss is going to the cemetery, it's like, okay, so Chucky died.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
R.I.P. Dick Miller.
Yeah.
Actor Dick Miller.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those things, like the series sets you up where no one gets killed. I mean, Batman's parents got killed, and basically in the series, that's, here and there were some people, unnamed people that might have died, but it kind of primed you to expect Chucky to do the moan and stumble out of the car and fall, and right. Just need hospital service. You just so that's why, I couldn't remember if Chucky ate it here, but apparently he did. So it cuts to a party that we see Bruce Wayne at, and he's doing the kind of the Playboy thing, and we've seen that, I think, done pretty well with Christian Bale and Batman Begins, especially kind of seeing that Playboy lifestyle character of Bruce Wayne that he has to kind of put on. And this is one that I really liked, and I didn't remember him exiting the party and going into this private room, and he just slumps against the door and lets out this big sigh, and it's like it reminded me that, oh yeah, I always know that he's putting on the character of Bruce Wayne when he's out in public and things like that, but you don't often see what I kind of think is the third persona, the real Bruce Wayne, which is the guy that doesn't pretend to be the Playboy, but he's also not being Batman. And you get a lot of him in this movie, and that's who is in this whatever room this is, just this private room, and Really refreshing to see, and I was really surprised by that.
Well, there's not a lot of examples of Batman in a movie setting where he's the main character of his movie.
Right.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
In the first four, I would say Batman Returns gets the closest, just because you get to like see him with Selina and get a little romance going there. And so you get a little flash of it there. That's kind of it in those four. And then you get Batman Begins and you get a little bit more there. But then once you get to Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, those aren't Batman movies. Those are, Joker and Bane movies. So I mean, that's part of why I'm so excited about this new one, because it seems like it's going to be like an actual Batman movie, which will be cool. And that's definitely why I love this one so much, is exactly what you're talking about. Is it really gets into the nitty gritty of like what makes this guy do what he does, and what kind of person does what he does, and what makes him special. And like why he's Batman and not any other number of bad guys. And so it's just you're right, it is really, really refreshing to see. It's what makes this movie special, in my opinion.
And also because like at this point in the animated series, like you got a few looks at the real Bruce Wayne. There was an episode where he goes to train with Zatara, who's the father of magician Zatanna, and you see them as younger characters, probably slightly younger than what we see Bruce in the flashbacks here in this movie. And then there's the episode Night of the Ninja, where he gets some of his ninja training, and he's again maybe 19 years old or something like that. So there might be a couple more examples like that, but for the most part, when you see Bruce Wayne in the animated series, it's mostly the either the businessman Bruce Wayne or the playboy Bruce Wayne, and any other time,
or Batman without his mask.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it was interesting to come to the end of this movie and realize this is a Bruce Wayne movie. It's not a Batman movie. So, and it's also kind of fun to get Kevin Conroy, of course, doing the voice of Bruce Wayne. Is now, it was his idea to do Bruce and Batman as completely separate voices, and now he's added, this younger Bruce, which is, you can definitely feel like it's the same person, but he hasn't. It's not the Bruce Wayne that has made the decision to become Batman. It's still this younger. He's out for vengeance, but he hasn't decided what form that's going to take yet. So it's just interesting that the actor can do a third performance in a completely different way, but it's still, you can tell that it's the same person. So
I dubbed him Emo Bruce. He's very teenage angsty.
A little bit, yeah.
Especially with Alfred.
He's going through a lot.
Yeah. I love
You're wrong, Alfred. I can't be happy.
Yeah. I love his like first night out where he's just in the ski mask and taking on these thugs.
Looks like a criminal.
Yeah.
Good call.
And a lot of that is taken from Batman Year One, and that's where Batman Begins gets a lot of the same kind of themes. But it's he takes on the thugs and he's talking to them. He tells them to get down. There's a lot of hi-ya. He's more verbal, of course, because he hasn't learned yet that I need to be theatrical and terrifying. So to do that, I need to be silent and menacing. So I like that you're seeing the evolution of the character. So
yeah, he's not that good because Miss Beaumont hands it to him in the yard pretty easily.
Yeah.
And kind of goes, okay, this is the Phantasm.
Okay, you figured it out then?
That's when I figured it out. I was like, okay, that's where this is going.
Gotcha.
Well, it was the only other character that they paid any attention
right.
to, so it's kind of easy to put that one together.
They do the clever ruse where when they introduce Andrea, it's her coming in off a plane, so it's like, you came to Gotham, went away, came back to Gotham, so whatever.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest plot hole
Yeah,
in the movie.
yeah.
Where you're just like, well, explain this.
Right.
Someone explain this.
But I like
Seems-
her. She's a
Yeah,
fun
yeah,
character.
yeah. I really like the when they kind of show them meeting for the first time, and the first couple times scenes you get with them, and it is a nice building romance that you kind of get. At least me, I kind of got I don't know, kind of not swept up in that. That sounds lame. But yeah, just
You're rooting for him.
yeah, these plucky kids,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. No, I mean it's the only Batman romance that I've ever felt was believable.
Yeah.
Like I outside of Batman and Catwoman in Batman Returns, and I guess in like the newish run of Batman comics, where they've like kind of like get into what they have in common.
Sure.
and sort of like present a Venn diagram for romance between those two. I think in terms of like just a not a crazy person romance, between all of his love interests that he's had, like I never really bought Talia.
Yeah.
I never really felt anything there. Not very often did I feel things with Catwoman.
Same,
But
yeah.
same thing with
Vicky
What
Vale?
is her name now? Vicky Vale. Thank you. Vicky Vale. They're always trying to make Vicky Vale happen, but that doesn't. I don't like that. There's somebody with like the last name Silver,
Yeah,
right?
Silver St. Cloud.
Yeah, Silver St. Cloud. First name Silver. Okay. Yeah, never really bought that. It's always felt forced, and Batman has always felt like a very, for lack of a better term, like asexual character.
Sure.
To me.
Yeah.
And so finding him building a relationship with this character is very like, I'm shocked at how well it works because I don't think it's ever worked before. I think a big part of that is Dana Delaney, who just rules.
Yeah.
I mean, she rules so hard in this that they cast her as Lois Lane.
Yeah.
In the Superman animated series, and she's awesome, and she's so good at this, playing all the nuances required for this character. Because I mean, the star of the show is Kevin Conroy, but that's to say nothing of like the different variations of the character that Dana Delaney has to play too. She's playing as many variations of the character as Kevin
That's
Conroy
true.
is.
Yeah. And she doesn't have the year plus of doing it as long as Kevin Conroy has done. So
Right. She doesn't have the autopilot setting
Right,
like
yeah.
he has.
Huh. Yeah, that's
She's
cool.
really good.
Yeah.
I'd like to submit my, I guess it's George McFly moment
Okay.
with Batman stalking Andrea from her dinner date with
Oh,
what's his face?
from across
yeah.
the street. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just it was unnerving watching that.
Gotcha.
I'm just like, ugh, Batman.
It's funny. It's funny. I definitely see what you're saying with the George McFly thing. That's funny. You would think that I would have made that connection too, but I didn't. But it reminded me of in Superman Returns when he goes to like Lois's house,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just like watches him talk about her, watches her talk about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was unsettling, I think is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Like especially when his binoculars focused on their hands. It's just like
Superheroes can be creepy too.
Yeah. I was just, I don't know. I'm not used to Batman like that. I'm used to brooding Batman, not dealing with emotions Batman.
He was brooding. He was just brooding with binoculars.
Yeah. I think now I remember what I was going to say. I think the reason the relationship works is because it's formed at a time when he hadn't shut everything down to become Batman. It was just on. She got in just under the wire, basically,
Yeah.
and because he struggles with, am I going to do this or am I going to try and have a normal, healthy, happy life with her? And it obviously it doesn't go that way, and then I think he basically does become that, like Scott said, kind of that asexual personality of Batman, and he knows that he's not going to pursue romantic relationships further than just, if it's as a front for Bruce Wayne, basically.
Right.
So I think that's why he is so hung up on her, and we get, all these flashbacks at opportune moments when he's, investigating. They all kind of go back to their relationship forming, and I think that, like I said, I think that works because she got in just at the right time.
That just made me think of something when you said, I think you said analyzer or whatever, but I never caught it. Maybe I missed it, but he's going on about that substance he found on the glass of the windshield.
Uh-huh.
Does that go anywhere? I didn't catch where that went, like how that's tied to anything.
Let me think.
Does it get tied to anything? Like, I thought that was going to
that it
unveil
does.
a location of the masked phantasm.
Oh,
I just couldn't. I don't remember.
I know that he analyzes the glass from the windshield, and then he does say at the cemetery, like, there seems to be the same polymer, in the grass or something like that. And okay. I want to say there's another scene on the Batcave computer where maybe the results take him to all these gangsters had holdings with this one company, that chemical company. Maybe I'm reaching there. I'm not sure.
No, I think you're right, because her father is connected to the same one, and I think that's how everybody gets connected into that photo that is getting thrown around in that movie.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that was connected to the substance. I thought he was just connecting the people that died.
Well, I think that's how it happened, because I think that's how he figured out to go to the cemetery to begin with, because he was like, oh, I see what's going on.
Weird. Yeah, that didn't pay off as much as I thought it would.
Yeah.
I totally missed that. That's how he ended up there.
I completely forgot. It's a fun scene when he's analyzing the glass, because there's some good Bruce
I like the
and
detective Batman.
Alfred. Yeah. I like that he talks about this polymer that has, and he describes its characteristics, and Alfred's like, oh, of course.
Yeah.
So, but aside from that, it didn't really go anywhere.
I think more than anything, it was just to explain how she's doing what she's doing, like with the fog, and then the disappearing and not getting hit by bullets and stuff. It was more of an exposition thing than it was a clue leading thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a second mob guy that gets whacked by the Phantasm, which is kind of a cool way. He gets chased into the open grave, and then she pushes the angel statue down on top of him, which is pretty good. And then again, it's like, I can't remember if when his henchmen run up to him, is it going to be the get me out of here kind of thing, or what happens is you get the look on their faces, and they're just kind of in horror and shock that he's clearly going to be dead under there. So
yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, which of course leads to again, everyone thinks this is Batman doing this stuff. So I kind of like a good frame up kind of story. Every now and then, sometimes it's overused, and sometimes it's not used in a great way. Here, it's kind of like it never gets resolved. There's never a moment where he gets cleared. So,
well, he doesn't have to be, because the reason that he's getting blamed is because that guy is in on it. He's the guy that's blaming him is part of the So he's part of the crew. So it's not like and nobody takes Harvey Bullock seriously.
Yeah.
So
I did find it really strange. We get one and only one Jim Gordon scene in this movie, and it's when he's the Arthur guy is calling basically for Batman's head. Bullock's all about it. He's like, sure, yeah, let's go. And Gordon is like, I'm not going to be a part of this. I know he didn't do it, but it's at the same time, it's like you've got two deaths and one suspect. Really, it is Batman was there. No matter what your feelings are toward him, Gordon, you might talk to him, but he just
Yeah.
He just slams the door, walks out, and you never see Gordon again. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I thought he was going to
well-
be like searching for the true killer
Yeah.
or whatever.
If
like,
you
I
had-
think if this was a live action movie and they had like 2 hours
Yeah.
to spend on the plot, I think
Yeah.
he definitely would. But you know, when you've got a $5 million budget on a 75-minute animated movie, you gotta cut your losses.
Yeah. It was just
Unfortunately, he
strange.
got the short end.
Yeah, it was just strange seeing Gordon in one spot defending Batman and then not being there when he's being chased by police later. It was just kind of strange. In retrospect, in the moment in the movie, I didn't notice that Gordon wasn't around, but in thinking about it later, like I think this is his only spot here.
I
so.
feel like in a live action context, what they would have done would have been something along the lines of like Harvey and Gordon both sort of like butting heads on this issue, like their sort of divergent opinions of Batman like really coming to a head. And then in the flashes, we get that little flash of young Harvey Bullock in like a police uniform, and it would have been cool if like you established that he and Gordon were partners, and then Gordon went up to Commissioner, and he always like kind of was
Stayed
like
behind.
frustrated with that, and you could get like a really like nice little like B plot or C plot about like their little story, their relationship. I think could have been really cool in terms of like the differences in the ways that they treat Batman relating back to the reasons why Gordon was promoted and Bullock wasn't.
Yeah.
He's just a better cop.
Yeah. We get I think it is a really nice meet cute at the cemetery with Andrea and Bruce, and then that takes them to their kind of building of their relationship. They go to the Gotham World's Fair, and you see the Gotham of the future and all this stuff, and it is fun to see this, Art Deco inspired World's Fair kind of thing.
I love Bruce being distracted by the car
Of
because
course.
he's at the end of the day he's just a boy. Like
Yeah.
it's just like he can be Batman all he wants, but at the end of the day he's still gonna be like humming at a car.
I thought I couldn't remember if that moment was in this. I couldn't remember if they teased the Batmobile with this futuristic automobile. What I love about it is that it's red, which I think is a nod to the original Batman comics from the 40s. Batman rode around in a red convertible that happened to be the same make and model that Bruce Wayne happened to drive. I think Batman would just drive it with the top up instead of as a convertible, but I think that's why it's red. And then there are some of the fins and some of the angles on it kind of remind me of the Lincoln Futura that they used to make the 66 Adam West Batmobile. So I like that it's kind of taking, I think, those two elements and mixing it with the Batmobile that they've given us for this animated series, and combining them. That's what I get out of it anyways. That's why I really like it.
Yeah. No, it's a cool moment. It's just missing him asking someone if it comes in black.
I started thinking about because at this point it kind of dips in and out of these flashbacks with some regularity. And now I'm curious, Patrick, if that worked for you or was it distracting? I kind of thought if you take out the flashback elements of this story, and it's essentially then just a story about Batman chasing down a vigilante. Then you've basically got maybe a 2-parter episode, like maybe a 44-minute story that you could cut into 2 parts for a 2-part episode, or maybe even more, cut it down even more to make it a 22-minute episode. But I was kind of curious.
I'm a sucker for flashbacks.
Okay,
so,
I like them too.
Yeah.
So
I mean I think they're necessary. They're what makes the story
for sure.
Without them, I mean, I love the World of Tomorrow stuff. so much because it's oh god, it's this thing where you have Batman, you have Bruce and Andrea like walking through this thing, and she's asking him like, do you really think we'll ever see a future like this? And what they're seeing are things like husband and wife and kids and all of these things. And she's talking about like the future technology, but like it's all feeding back into the theme of the movie, which is that like he can't have that if he's going to be Batman.
Right.
And her asking that question. And so it sort of, by asking that question, it makes the world of tomorrow just sort of like become this thematic point in the movie, this representation of the future that they could have had together, which is of course why it's so decrepit later on,
Right.
And it's beautiful. I just think like what for the fact that they were just told, they just somebody just showed up to the studio and was like, hey, we want you guys to make a direct-to-video movie, and then like a couple weeks later come back to them and be like, hey, we're actually going to put it in theaters. And like they actually turned out something as incredible as this movie with just such like thematic resonance and such an understanding of this character, and a reinvention of his origin.
Yeah.
That suits the animated series sensibilities, as opposed to like the comics version. It's just beautiful. I love the World of Tomorrow stuff. I think it's incredible.
Let's see. We have, I guess it's still in the flashback. You get to meet, she takes him to meet her father, and it's Carl Beaumont. He's voiced by Stacy Keach, who's also voicing the Phantasm, which is a nice, I guess it's meant to
Red
be
herring.
Red herring, yeah. And then you have Sal Valestra, who shows up, played by Abe Vigoda, who, of course, Sally from The Godfather, which is probably the only reason he's really cast in this, as, again, Sal. But I mean, Andrea Romano, of course, is the voice cast director, or the casting director, and she had a great talent for finding all these voices. So Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, and
when she retired, animation lost like just a massive loss. I mean, she's amazing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they named Andrea Beaumont after.
Yeah,
after
yeah,
her,
I'm fairly sure that's true. Yeah.
There's a great moment when they leave that meeting, and there's some punks, some biker punks, kind of hassling this. I don't know. I guess he was selling some jewelry and stuff. And there's, I want to say it's a nod to Akira when Bruce runs towards the motorcycle and like does the moment where he steps on the headlight and kicks the guy.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember if I was making that up, or I was like, I know I've seen that somewhere.
Yeah.
I imagine it would have to be from Akira. There was another cool thing that I wouldn't have noticed had I not been a part of the Bat Minute table read for the 1984 script. So I did a voice for, it was basically one of these biker punks in that 84 script. There was kind of this scene where Bruce is still struggling with what is he going to do. He's got all this anger and all this rage, and he doesn't know what to do with it. And then he finds this or hears some bikers giving this lady a hard time, and he gets involved and he beats them down. And I don't remember if they're on bikes when he does that, but I think it's kind of this scene. But I also don't know how much Bruce Timm and Paul Dini and that whole crew of Eric Radomski, I don't know how much they would have borrowed from a shelved movie script.
Right.
So it's probably just like parallel development. I mean, this isn't a unique and original idea of someone taking on some bikers, but it just felt only, like I said, only because I'd done that recently. It felt familiar. So
Sure. It's a cool scene.
yeah. And we get again kind of who I think is the real Bruce Wayne. We get when it's the Bruce that goes to the graveside of his parents and is pleading with them of what, can't I be happy? And of course you're watching this whole thing and he gives this very emotional kind of pleading to his parents, and you have to remember, like, he's talking to himself. He's putting all this guilt on himself. Like, it's not his parents' wish that they be avenged. It's all in his head. So I think it makes it even more tragic.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, I love that scene. I think it's really good. Just the idea that, like, all of this preparation that he spent his life just dedicated to one thing, and he's gonna he's gonna be this symbol for Gotham. He's going to make sure that he promised a little boy that he would never let what happened to him happen to anyone else ever again, and dedicated his life to it, and never ever counted on ever being happy. And it's just he's happy, and it's completely throwing his entire plan out the window. It's interesting because it's difficult to empathize with, because, like, none of us are ever going to, dedicate our lives to avenging somebody and becoming a symbol for a city.
Sure.
And it's a very obviously, like, exaggerated idea or concept, and so from the outset it can seem really silly, but if you really, like, I think if you really absorb yourself in the emotions of these characters, and if you especially watching this show the way that you watch it, it's like that there's that extra layer of the fact that that he does become Batman. This is a flashback.
Yeah.
He is Batman. And the fact that he's begging to not be Batman because he wants to be happy is so heartbreaking, and all the good that he does for the city, and that he's a hero and that he'll be remembered as a hero, or, in whatever context that is in this animated series. But, you still, you're kind of happy for Bruce, for, like, he has a chance to be normal.
Yeah.
And how not normal his life is going to be. And so there's that bittersweet quality to it as well, especially when she shows up and, saves him or whatever. And then it doesn't shake out that way.
Yeah.
And it adds, like, I think this scene and the scene later where he's putting on the Batman costume for the first time are sort of like this yin and yang scene. They're these matching scenes of this sort of, like, bittersweet, narrative irony.
Yeah.
And it's oh God, it's so good. It's so good. I love it.
I like that transition to his Batman persona and Alfred being afraid of him.
Oh, yeah, so well done.
I think you got it there, Bruce.
Yeah, it's really good, and I also like that we don't get to see him. We get to see the eyes and the shadows, and that's it. Because it's not that Batman looks scary. It's like, we've watched the animated series. We know he doesn't look scary. He's a kid's character, but it's less what he looks like and more of the fact that, like, oh, the Bruce that I raised, that I've known since he was a kid, is gone. Like, he's gone. He's this other thing now. And I think that's the thing that's horrifying Alfred in that moment. Less so than the costume. I think the costume's kind of just cool. I don't know.
I think it's like the presence that he gives off. Like, once it's all
absolutely.
clicked.
Yeah.
There's a great follow-up, I mean, at the very end of the movie, where Alfred gets a little bit of that, like, redemption, and I'll talk about it later, but from this moment where, he is initially terrified, and like you said, his little boy's gone, he'll be rewarded, by the end of this movie. The thing I love about the birth of Batman kind of moment there is it's the only time in the series or even in this movie where the costume itself is not highlighted with blue highlights. It's just black with you can see the gray cutouts for the eyes and the cutout for the mouth and a few like gray contours, but like when Alfred hands him the mask, but for the most part, I mean, it's just black silhouette, and I like the choice there not to do any highlights on that scene of the typical blue kind of that they make the costume. So that was kind of because this is the darkest point for Bruce,
right?
Because when you get Bruce when he's in the present day, he's not the same, like he doesn't have that same anger and same drive. He's still doing what he does because of the not wanting anyone to be victims of crime ever again, but it's not from that same pit of darkness that he's kind of at this stage, at this kind of moment when he puts on the costume.
Yeah.
So, and then we get like halfway at this point, you're halfway through the movie, and that's when they introduce the Joker. When Valestra goes to meet with Joker at the World of Tomorrow, and we've seen, of course, in the flashbacks and in the photos, like this character that kind of looks like Joker and is definitely kind of a nasty character, but I like that. It's definitely something that you notice the second you see it in the photo. It's like, oh, that guy kind of looks like Joker, but Batman or Bruce doesn't notice that guy in the photo for, I mean, a while.
That was my Scooby-Doo moment when he had to draw the lipstick on.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
And then he has an Alfred freak out. My God.
Yeah.
How is this possible?
What did you guys think about the unexpected origin story of the Joker here?
I like it because I like that it's doesn't matter that he becomes the Joker. Like none of the Jokerness is a factor here. With he's just a small time or an up and coming gangster. So I kind of like that. I like and I think I did read that his name is Jack Napier here in the, they did borrow that from Tim Burton. Like at some point, I don't know when, maybe in a police file, they do actually name the Joker here the same as the 89 movie. So I kind of like that origin for Joker. Just a small time gangster who became a crazy criminal.
Yeah, what I like about it too is, especially in this context, because I don't love Jack Napier played by Jack Nicholson as so much. Specifically, like pre-Joker, I love his Joker. His Joker's great, but prior to becoming the Joker, I'm not so into it. But here, what I like about it is that he's just a psychopath, and I like that because like one of the things that The Killing Joke I think ruined about the Joker, and I like The Killing Joke as a thing. It's just the fact that it became continuity is an issue because it was never intended to be. Is the idea of like all it takes is one bad day and you can be as crazy as me.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I call BS on that. I think that if you are a psychopath, you've always been a psychopath. You don't become a psychopath. I think that you're a psychopath who is choosing to I guess fulfill whatever psychopathic desires that you have. And so I like the fact that he is just this nobody hired killer.
Yeah.
And that he has a name, Jack Napier, but he's still a nobody. He's a nobody. And he becomes it. You could imagine that he becomes the Joker to be somebody because it wasn't enough that he was just getting to be a hired killer.
Yeah.
He wanted to be larger than life. He wanted to be known. He wanted that sense of celebrity, and that's how he becomes the Joker, not from some tragedy where he fell into a pit of acid or anything like that. It's just he's a psychopath who also wants notoriety. And I like that. I think I like that a lot because it takes it does take the mystery away from the Joker.
Sure.
But I don't think the Joker needs that mystery personally to work. And I think the mysteriousness of the Joker has actually somewhat ruined a lot of perfectly great interpretations of the character.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of what you were saying with this starting out as an up-and-comer nobody. That's why I love that flashback in the 89 Batman when you see him killing Bruce's parents. Like, that actor, that that portrayal of Jack Napier, like, that's the guy that goes on to become the Joker. Like, that is the guy in this animated movie, like, perfectly. So that's why I like that they feel kind of connected. And I don't need Batman the Animated Series to feel like the Burton universe, but I'd like that interpretation, especially for this character, for Joker. Patrick, did it work for you? I mean, did you see the character in the photo and think, oh, there's Joker?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, Batman was nice enough to color in the lines for me.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of understand the whole nobody henchman origin.
Yeah.
But to me, I think I enjoyed Heath Ledger's made up origins, where it's like you have no idea and maybe you never will kind of thing. So I like the mystery of not knowing.
I like it in Dark Knight because he tells three different people different origins. That works for me.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, it's a version of the character that works for a lot of people. Like, the fact that I want to take away the mystery, it makes me in the super minority. In terms of people who enjoy the Joker.
Yeah.
People are obsessed with that mystery element of the Joker and wanting to maintain it. And I don't blame them. Like, I get it. Like, I get wanting to do that, but I don't like, I guess I don't like, I think what the mystery does is it sort of like elevates the Joker to a almost a deity level.
Yeah. That's what the comics are. I feel like the comics have been doing the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I think about what they did with Gotham, with trying to introduce the Joker on that Gotham show, and it was like, oh, this kid's going to be the Joker. And they build this kid up for, I don't know, a season or two.
Just kidding. It's his twin brother.
Yeah, exactly. It's like because that's them thinking that the Joker has to have a mystery, and regardless of what the mystery is.
Right.
So,
yeah,
I'm perfectly happy with low key gangster Joker, who we don't see, become the Joker here. We don't see him fall in the vat of acid, and we don't need to because we know it happens. But I like that it's this is young Jack, and he's not quite the same character, but he's still creepy and menacing, and especially when they revisit him later, when he shows back up to wherever Andrea and her father are in hiding. But
isn't he also like isn't he like humming the Joker theme?
I didn't catch that if he is. He kind of purrs at her when she, walks in, and he's smoking. I don't know, maybe.
I don't remember if he's like humming when he's walking away after he kills her dad. He like picks up that apple and I think he's humming as he walks away. I think he's humming the Joker theme or whistling it or something.
Could be.
I don't remember. But that's another aspect of or another theory as far as like what happens to this guy to make him the Joker. I actually like the interpretation that he's just this guy until Batman shows up and he's like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to do something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just becomes the Joker that way.
I like the deity angle. I could see him as like
really?
a weird low-key trickster.
Oh.
Because I honestly don't ever understand why Joker is such a threat. He's got no foreseeable like fighting skill.
Right.
He's constantly getting his ass beat. He's got horrible henchmen. I don't know. He's never really posed much of a challenge.
He's resilient,
to Batman, other than putting him in weird situations. But I've never quite been on board with the Joker in general. because it seems like he'd be one and done, but then he always gets out of jail or the
Yep.
asylum. Like, he doesn't seem like that much of a threat. Like, I don't understand why he is. Because when it comes down to it, he's a dude with like a acid flower and some chemicals that he does a poor job of executing with.
Yeah. And that's why this version of the Joker in animation works so well, because he can be a cartoon character in a cartoon.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, Jack Nicholson was playing a cartoon character, but was still limited by the physics of reality,
Yeah.
you know. It's just, yeah.
But
That's
he
why
does seem like he seems like a trickster, like we were saying. But like, I don't like it's hard for me to wrap my head around why he is such a pain in the butt, because he's not that productive.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the writer writing him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've seen all of the best Joker stories, in my opinion, are ones where, like, just recently in the comics, he enacted a plan where he stole all of Bruce's fortune. And then it's like, oh, it's like a poor Batman and a super rich Joker. And it's like, what? Oh, yeah, that one, I could see why that one's going to be difficult, but it's always him just sort of testing Batman from a philosophical place. And I find that to be really interesting. I mean, when you get down to like nuts and bolts, it's like, yeah, he could punch him in the face and I guess it could be over, but I like him, I don't know, creating scenarios that make it difficult to just punch him in the face and throw him back in Arkham or in prison or whatever. I like that he keeps kind of one-upping himself every time.
Yeah, I think he just comes off as a lesser Lex Luthor. Like, Lex, I get, he's super genius.
Yeah.
Joker, I mean, he's got some intelligence, but he's so crazy that it's kind of counterproductive.
he seems like he would be his own worst enemy. Like, he
Yeah.
would be, for as much as like the Heath Ledger Joker, for as much as he talks about not being a planner and the schemers and that, like, he plans everything out to the nth degree.
Well, you can't believe anything he says in that movie.
That's true. So yeah. But
either that or he's just really good at improv.
Yeah.
It's one or the other.
yeah.
Maybe that's it. We've had it wrong this whole time. We keep thinking he's a clown or a stand-up, but really he's an improv artist.
My favorite Joker is the one from Lego Batman.
Oh, really?
Where he's like, just wants to be friends.
Yeah.
He found a kindred spirit in Batman. They both like to cosplay. They both have some issues,
In a way, though, those are my favorite interpretations too. Is like it's the reason that he loves, or that the reason that he's the Joker is because Batman's Batman.
Yeah.
And he just wants to he wants to be his nemesis because he is fascinated by this guy, and wants to put him through his paces. And so, like, even outside of Lego Batman, I think serious interpretations of the Joker that have a very similar arc to that Batman or to that Joker, I think are the most interesting ones.
Oh yeah, there's definitely an unhealthy obsession that he has with Batman.
Yeah, no, and I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think it's really cool.
Let's see, where are we? Phantasm
Joker just showed
up. Paid a visit to Valestra. Of course, Valestra paid a visit to Joker. Joker, graciously accepts the to help Valestra, and then the next time we see him, he's got this big the rictus Joker grin.
Yeah.
Dead in his home, and that's where Phantasm finds him. Which I like the element there where Joker's watching through like CCTV, and it's like, oh, you're not Batman. And then, of course, there's a chase. The Batman shows up just in time for the cops to think he, blew up this place, and it's a nice. I guess it's the first meeting between the Phantasm and Batman, really. Scott, I wondered if you caught like the Phantasm having a bit of a Mysterio vibe, just with the use of smoke and things like that, and being able to like be there but not be there. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. I can see that. It's like almost it's like a grounded approach to Mysterio. Um, and but I guess the difference here is that it's really happening versus
Yeah.
Mysterio, who is using like special effects
Yeah.
or whatever.
You get something that you don't often see with this. It's when Batman is starting to be surrounded by cops, and they're actually doing a good job of like cordoning off an area and keeping him grounded, basically. And they even have the Batwing like surrounded. You never see that thing like parked. Generally it would be hovering nearby, and he would just call it to him, basically. So that was kind of interesting to see. But they do a good job of really just swarming him and limiting his options of escape. And when you get him in that construction kind of building, their explosions are going off, and he is wrecked, and they're definitely like, it's shoot to kill, which is an odd thing if you really think about it. Like, why are so many people opening fire on Batman? They're definitely don't seem to be trying to arrest him, which
They think he's a
problematic.
serial murderer.
Yeah.
So
But,
it reminds me of the opening sequence of Over the Edge. Yeah. It reminded me a lot of that, and how how if he was on the wrong side of the law, he's not as equipped for that as he thinks he is.
Yeah, because it goes sideways real fast, and he's a few minutes in, and he's without his cape and cowl, and he's running through alleys just trying to get away from. I mean, Bullock of all people is chasing him. And
he's quite nimble.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Andrea shows up for the assist, and I like that they make it clear that when Andrea sees him at the cemetery, she sees what grave he was nearest to, and of course it's the Waynes, and then here it's like she just accepts and realizes that he's Batman. It doesn't have to be a big reveal, or she just knows Bruce, I guess, well enough to know that this is what would have become of him.
And he was, talking about, like, I mean, she saw him fight those motorcycle dudes.
That's true.
And was like training jujitsu, like a form of martial arts that she had never heard of before. And then she leaves town, and then she sees this guy, doing this stuff. I mean, I think I would get that she would put that together.
Yeah, I like she's kind of the one that put him in that situation as the Phantasm.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's kind
like
of funny
that
that she's saving him.
I was just in the area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, my bad. This is all because of me.
Yeah.
I've got daddy issues.
I didn't mean for you to get blamed for the murders. In retrospect, I really should have thought of a different color scheme.
Yeah.
My bad.
The Joker and Arthur, I don't know the guy's last name. Arthur, the guy that's like...
Oh, Reeves.
Reeves, thank you.
I'm looking at IMDb. That's the only reason.
Cool. The scene with them, I can't imagine watching as a kid, because it was borderline like scary now, watching Joker just intimidate Reeves, and then just the way they did the lighting and the animation, and there's like thunder going off with his face. It was or lightning, I guess. And then the next time you see him, he's in this hospital. He can't stop laughing, and it's just
it's so good.
Yeah, it just sticks with you.
That actor really like wow, like that, like the way that he sells the laughing. I mean, I would argue that he does a better job than Joker.
That's it's Hart Bachner, who I knew the name but couldn't place who he was. But seeing that he is Ellis from Die Hard, the kind of just the sleazy, the come out to the coast, get together,
the 80s yuppie.
Yes,
yeah. He's really good at like that. The laugh, the giggles, and then the oh no. no.
yeah.
Like, that's so good.
I wrote that down too. The oh no, as he knows he's gonna start laughing again, and because Batman's there, and that is so. It is really cool.
It kills me every time. I love it.
And we assume he dies, right? Like Sal.
I guess, yeah. You never find out his fate.
Yeah.
And
it seems like he might have gotten to the hospital early enough that they're working the poison through his system, because they're like sedating him and stuff to get him to stop laughing.
Yeah, it seems to work for a second, but then it
until Batman
kicks
shows
back
up.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, Batman revs it back up again.
I like the doctors in that scene. They're like, councilman, behave yourself. Like he's got a freaking choice.
Right.
Yeah. Stop laughing. I
Like,
would
what's
if
with
I
this
could.
guy? Don't stop
Jeez.
laughing. Not like we have like a whole city of these Joker killings or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of takes you into the third act, I guess. It kind of everything basically leads everyone to the world of tomorrow, or Gotham of the future, and
It escalates quickly.
yeah.
It's like we gotta wrap this up.
Mm-hmm. I forget how it plays out, but you see Andrea is just standing outside the Gotham of the future, and then it goes in. I think that's when it goes into that flashback of the Joker killing her father, and then the Phantasm shows up in front of Joker, and he's like, oh, he knows it's her, and of course then she gets rid of the costume, but I wonder. I mean, it's pretty easy to tell that kind of where the story's headed, that it's going to be her, but it's an odd reveal just for Joker to know it's her, and but I don't know if her standing outside is meant to indicate that she is the Phantasm. I mean, you see her in a kind of a black outfit, but it's not clear.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reveal is that her dad is dead,
Right?
Because I think
that's right.
Because I think the whole movie you're meant to believe that it's him.
Yeah. I think I always forget that.
Yeah, because once you know,
Yeah.
and like there's no going back to not knowing,
Right.
But yeah, I think the movie's trying to set up that it's her father, and then when you get the flashback that her father's dead, and then you see her, and then it's like, oh, like she's the Phantasm.
Yeah.
And so when Joker reveals it, it's not really a reveal because hopefully the audience has already figured it out.
Yeah, I kind of figured that when she said "Daddy doesn't matter anymore." And I wrote down because he's dead,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and then we got the flashback.
Yeah. One of the things that I must have remembered as a kid from watching the trailer, but seeing the Batman and Joker in the miniature Gotham, kind of seeing them, like someone said, being like a King Kong or Godzilla. I as a kid, I remember thinking, oh, do they grow? Somehow do they grow super tall and they fight? Like I as a kid, I thought that was a for real thing where they were super, I don't know, thousands of feet tall.
Just remember that happening. just imagine that happening in this story.
Right.
Like,
like where...
the third act and they become giant and fight each other like kaiju. Oh, man.
So I got a general question that I didn't think about until she met up with the Joker.
Yeah.
He shoots his fun flower of acid and burns the hell out of that. Not quite a Captain Hook.
A scythe, maybe? I don't know what the
Yeah.
But
name
it's like
for it
on a
would be.
nub, and I was like, why take away your hand? Like that just seems like a weird tool,
Yeah.
especially for something that's like a phantom that's supposed to be pretty mobile, and you're removing a hand.
She's a reaper,
Yeah.
She's just
Yes.
yeah.
I don't know. It was just a weird choice. I didn't really think about it until I saw it melt away and her hand was underneath.
Yeah.
It's like handicapping yourself for some reason.
I've never thought of this before, but I wonder if the opening CGI Gotham isn't actually Gotham. It's the City of Tomorrow model.
Oh,
That's funny.
it could be.
Yeah. I've never. I mean, we don't get to go to the wide shot of like seeing it, but like, it certainly represents it has more thematic resonance if that's what it is. I don't know. I'd never thought of that
Yeah.
before. And then when you were talking about the model city, I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
funny.
remember thinking the mask made me think of the buildings in that scene, like the straight lines.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all Art Deco,
Yeah.
so it's all going to remind you of everything else.
I also find it weird
All
that
that
every
stuff's
time there's like
similar.
a World of Tomorrow, it's always from the perspective of the 50s.
Yeah.
That's because we don't really have futurism anymore.
Yeah.
That's not. Yeah.
The
it's
space
not a-
age
not
killed
really a
it.
thing.
Once we
Yeah,
got there.
I think the last like futurism that we ever had was Star Trek, I guess, notwithstanding, would be like Back to the Future Part 2. Would be like the closest version of this kind of thing, but I don't even know if America even like operates in the World's Fair anymore, because they still have World's Fairs.
Yeah.
Do they really?
Yeah, they just haven't had one in America since 1963, the New York World's Fair, which is
wow.
what this is referencing.
Yeah.
And Walt Disney's approach to it, because the little mini city of the future is Epcot.
Sure.
It's the Epcot model that
Makes
he
sense.
built for the 1963 World's Fair. So it's all referencing that, and I think I want to say that might be the last time America has been a part of the World's Fair, is it's been in other countries ever since, and I think it's either every 2 years or every 4 years, I forget. But yeah, I think it's in France next year. I think it was supposed to be this year, but
Yeah.
obviously,
Sure. Yeah. We're gonna call a mulligan on this year.
yeah.
Yeah, we're supposed to have.
Honestly, I've just been saying we should just call a full blown mulligan and call next year 2020B and just
Right.
start over. just pick
yeah.
up from where we left off.
Yeah, I'm good with just getting rid of 2020. I don't want a Part
Yeah,
B.
well.
Yeah.
If Part B is worse than the original, sequels tend not to work out too well.
Yeah.
Another like clever, kind of like the Batman stepping on the table to dispatch the guy instead of kicking the gun out of the way. When Joker is kind of grappling with Phantasm, and he's reaching kind of behind him, his options are a big tube of bologna or a meat cleaver. I love that he comes up with the bologna, because of course Joker would hit her with a big slab of bologna. And I like to think that he felt the cleaver and thought, no, I'm going to go with the bologna instead.
It's funnier.
It's more humiliating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it did
the
did
joke.
make me think
Yeah.
of Ninja Turtles too.
Combat
Yep.
cold cuts.
Imagine if the Joker had beaten Jason Todd to death with a thing of bologna. Do you think that book would be remembered as fondly?
Oh man, that's great.
Oh man.
He's dead meat.
Oh,
Oh.
jeez.
Wow. You just named that comic. It wouldn't have
Yeah.
been called Death in the Family. It would have been called Dead Meat.
That was good, Travis. That was good.
Thank you.
Batman, Dead Meat.
There you go. Kind of works, yeah. We kind of touched on this. I know, Patrick, when you mentioned like seeing blood in this movie, even though it may look a little fake, but just seeing blood in a Batman the Animated Series, adjacent property, like that's rare. Like, and especially when Batman punches him and Joker loses a tooth, like you see the tooth go flying, and then it's consistent. Like from then on, he's without the tooth and he's bleeding, and you don't get that in that show. So it was interesting here. It's like it was really the stakes were there. And then at the end of this big confrontation that they have, again, Batman is just broken. His costume's tattered. You can tell he is just, there's nothing left in the tank.
Oh, I do I do love that bit though when he takes off his cape to gather up the drones and like
Yeah.
smash them like they're in a bag, and then
Yeah.
puts the cape back on. Pretty dope move, Batman.
For
That's
sure.
pretty good.
The thing that really stuck out to me when you get Jetpack Joker,
Yep.
which this is our second movie in a row with a jetpack. We just did RoboCop 3, Scott.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he's, Batman gets up he's climbed on board with Joker, and they're flying around, and of course the thing I like about this Joker is he's not suicidal. He's not, a quote unquote anarchist chaos guy like Heath Ledger. Like, to a certain point, he doesn't want to die. If it's funny, he'd probably laugh, if he was falling to his death, but for the most part, he doesn't want to, die if he's not ready to go. So when he says, like, "You fool, you'll kill us both," and Batman's response was, I wrote it down. Joker says, "Let me go or we'll both die," and Batman says, "Whatever it takes." And the interesting thing to me about that is throughout Batman's history, the ongoing thing is, why doesn't Batman kill the Joker? You'd save countless lives if you did, blah, blah, blah. Batman here is willing to kill the Joker if he also dies. Like, he will sacrifice himself to take out the Joker, but he won't kill the Joker if he has to live with himself after the fact. So I thought that was really interesting. That's never stood out to me. I don't know if it's been long enough since I've seen this, so I just forgot that moment. But
I think the reason that moment works is because if the Joker dies by Batman's hand, Batman is dead. Like philosophically.
Yeah.
And
sure.
so
that's Alfred's fear. Yeah.
Right. And so the only way that Batman is going to kill the Joker is if he dies as well. Because it is going to be the only way, because it's not even just that he doesn't want to live with the guilt of doing it or anything like that. It's because everything that Batman represents would be dead with the Joker, and so he might as well go also. Right.
Seeing the Joker just like kind of he gets to a point where he's beaten. He's like, "I give up, take me in." He's Andrea is just holding him, and Joker has given up. And there's a great scene once the bombs start going off, and seeing Joker just cackling with the flames around him, and that's just a great, like, iconic kind of moment.
Yeah, I love the sort of thematic representation of the world of the future being Bruce and Andrea's relationship, and how it starts bright and shiny and hopeful, and then ends up sort of decrepit, but still kind of there, like it's haunting them, the possibility of this future that they could have had together. And then in her decision to kill the Joker, blows it up. Like, any hope that they could have that future together is destroyed in that moment, literally and figuratively. And it's just like, oh God, it's so good. It's such a good choice of using this as that thematic representation of their relationship.
Yeah, because typically with a Joker layer, you would get an abandoned amusement park, and that doesn't have any connection to anyone other than the Joker,
Right.
Because typically it's like a carnival kind of whatever.
Right.
So yeah, I like that it's, like you said, I like what it represents.
So the Joker dies then? I wasn't really clear on that.
I think so, because like you get to the end and she's alone on that ship and is alive, but the Joker, like, it seems like she's done being the Phantasm, and so if she's done being the Phantasm, the only way that could have happened is if the Joker's dead. And so to me, the way that plays for me in my mind is that this is the series finale of Batman the Animated Series. Stuff happens after this, or like stuff comes after this, or is released after this. Sub-Zero happens after this, but I think it takes place before this this. I think this is in continuity. This is the very last thing to happen in Batman the Animated Series, and that is the death of that Joker. And then
Right.
the black-eyed Joker that we get in the new version, the one that like you know, well, like the weird redesign
when
is
the
a
when the
different
series
character.
went to WB from Fox, where
Right. I think that's a different character, and I think the reason that Bruce and Dick have their falling out, which I think in the episode it's because he knows that Barbara Gordon is Batgirl and didn't tell Dick, and is like working really hard to like turn her into a better hero, rather than the way that she's depicted in Batman the Animated Series is just like this teenager who was in like a couple of episodes and is sort of doing her own thing outside of the Bat family. She's not part of the family. She didn't ask permission to do this. She just did it for like, I think a 1-2-parter, and that was kind of it, I think.
she was trying to clear her father's name because he was being framed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so in my mind, because of Andrea's decision here, Bruce looks at Batgirl and it was like, I have to make sure that she's not that way, that she doesn't turn into Andrea. She doesn't turn into the Phantasm. And so I need to make sure that she's part of the family, that I'm training her. And as a result of that, it led to his falling out with Dick Grayson, which led him to become Nightwing. And then eventually Batman picking up, Tim.
New Robin,
and going on into the new Batman and Robin adventures. So that's, in my mind, that's like my headcanon as far as like how this all fits in. There's nothing official that says those things, but in my mind, that's how it works, and that's how this works as a series finale to Batman the Animated Series.
Well, and even because all of this stuff is, it's not. Some of it's not like sequential. Like it doesn't matter, animation style changes, yes, but you could still take this movie and put it at the end of basically the animated series and the new Batman Adventures or whatever they called it. This could still work as that finale with all that stuff happening before this.
Well, actually, no, because we see how that Joker dies in Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker.
Well, but that would come. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it has to be. It has to be two different Jokers.
Yeah.
In my mind. But
forgot about that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah. No, I like it though.
Yeah.
There's a weird thing here. There's a beautiful moment between Bruce and Alfred, and Alfred talks about he was afraid of what he would become, and basically that Andrea became what he was afraid Bruce would become. But now he knows that he isn't going to fall down that abyss the way she did, and then there's this like something catches Bruce's eye, and he goes to this. I don't know. It's a locket, but it's the size of a pocket watch.
Yeah.
That has. He saw it at her place, earlier, but there's no meaning there other than it has a picture of the two of them. But it's not like if it had been the diamond ring, the engagement ring that he gave her, that somehow she got back and placed there, that would have more meaning for me than this pocket locket thing that wasn't something that I don't remember him giving her.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even think that moment is necessary.
No.
It feels a little tacked on. I think the idea is that like she left that for him after she supposedly died, and so it's like it's her reaching out to say, hey, I'm still alive. I'm not going to bother you. Our future together isn't going to happen, but just so you know, I'm not dead.
Yeah. I think that like the totem is an odd thing for me. This object is an odd thing to leave behind.
Yes.
Unless
it would have even been fine if there was like a letter inside of it.
Yeah.
Something that like falls out when he opens it, and it's like
Right.
their picture, but then there's like a little letter, a little note.
Yeah.
Even that would have been better, because then it's like, oh, okay, it's about the note. It's not so much the locket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think now is that because typically things you need things to pop up 3 times, and we've seen this would be 2 because we saw it at her place and now we're seeing it here in the cave. If this locket, it might have shown up when Bruce was saving the guy that was selling jewelry on the side of in the middle of the street when he got roughed up by the bikers. Now that I'm thinking about it, that locket may have come from there. So I guess after he saved the guy, he bought this piece from this guy and gave it to her. But if that's the case, that's a stretch, and that's really making us work, hard to, I don't know. But it's a weird, somber ending for a kid's Batman movie because if the series continues after this, the way pretty much everyone, you watch this and then the next thing you watch is whatever following episode of the animated series is, and Joker's still there, and so if this is just a chapter kind of in the middle of all that, like Joker gets away, which is fine, but we don't see him go to Arkham. We don't, there's ambiguity there. It's a movie full of like dead gangsters and like Andrea and Bruce don't work out, and it's just an odd way to end a movie. It works, it totally works, but it's so somber.
It works on its own without all of the context that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
But like with that context, it is like wow, what an odd thing they made. Yeah. It's definitely somber, as you said. It's very somber. I will say, going back to the conversation about that Alfred was talking about, how he knows now that he'll never fall into the abyss that Andreas said. I like that, and I don't know if they were thinking about this, and maybe this is just me like overinterpreting. It probably is, but I like the idea that he's always teetering on the edge of that abyss, and that's why he's in the Batcave. Like, it's like his base of operations is literally teetering on the edge of that abyss. I just like that. I don't know. It's kind of cool.
Visually, it works. Yeah, them standing next to a bottomless pit. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's about all I got on the main part of it. Patrick, you got anything?
No, I mean the ending. It just sort of ended, and I was like, oh, okay. She's getting hit on by some sleazy rich guy and staring off into the distance.
I like that he had the wherewithal to see like, oh, she's in mourning, and even says like, oh, sorry, so
it was just a weird ending. I wasn't expecting.
Sure.
I was like, wow, okay, very heavy moment there, and I had no idea what happened to the Joker. I assumed that she like gave in and brought him to Arkham or something, just because I know the cartoon obviously goes on, so I didn't think he was dead, and obviously she wasn't dead, and they were together. So, but I also know she has her magic mist power.
Yeah.
That somehow works.
It reminds me too of like the Killing Joke.
Yeah, I've been
in terms
that.
of like. That story wasn't supposed to be part of continuity. It was supposed to be this outside of continuity, like last Batman story ever kind of concept. And it ends with Batman killing the Joker. But because they put it into continuity, they took away the fact that he's killing him. They like changed the ending to make it be like, oh yeah, no, he didn't kill him. He just choked him out, I guess. That's it. But in the interpretation of the text, if you're just reading the Killing Joke on its own without any of the other context surrounding it or what comes after that, Oracle and all of that business, that is the story where the Joker finally drove Batman to murder him in front of the police, like just murder him
while laughing.
While laughing. Until he wasn't laughing anymore. And I think this is a similar situation.
Now that you kind of put it, like that, and we're talking about this possibly being the A series finale, like I kind of like that. Makes me like it even more. Like thinking of this as a finale, the way I've never have before, because there has always been more adventures after this. So yeah, I like that. That actually improves this for me. So
Nice.
yeah. Let's go around and talk about what we feel is the most villainous moment and most heroic, and we start with villainous.
This planet, these people, they are nothing to me.
You were made to be ruled.
The universe's power. Pure, unstoppable power. Come to me, son of Jor-El. Kneel before Zod. And I am that force. I am that power.
In the end, you will always kneel.
Kneel before your master.
Finding out that Arthur gave up Carl Beaumont, which set everything in motion. It sets the Joker loose, or sets Jack Napier loose on killing Carl, and then that in turn creates the Phantasm. And so definitely, for me, Arthur giving up, selling out the Beaumonts.
Well, not only that, but then he dates her, and then he rubs it in Bruce's face at the party about the girl that got away that was her.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah.
He kind of dug in.
Yeah.
Arthur Reeves is a nightmare for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going, because he did a lot of work behind the scenes.
Yeah. And it's so weird that you don't know his fate. He gets the giggles, and then we're either left to assume he dies, or maybe just goes insane. Maybe it's one of those things that he'll always have that poison in him somehow, because Joker's just that good. I don't know.
For me, I think it's Andrea killing the Joker, or choosing to kill the Joker over being a hero and
Sure.
and giving up on her vengeance, just for what it represents in terms of like the poetry between her and Bruce.
Yeah.
Of they're two very different paths. And so I think when I think about the film in the thematic ways that I'm talking about, I think that to me is the most villainous moment, just because it is so diametrically opposed to Batman. So I think for me that it's that moment.
Okay.
Not to mention that leaves
Yeah.
Batman still pinned for all this.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
I was kind of talking about
Very
earlier.
true.
Like, he's never cleared of any of this, but
Yeah.
He's had a hell of a week. A lot of body
yeah,
count.
Yeah.
How about most heroic?
I believe there's a hero in all of us
I just finally know what I have to do.
that keeps us honest,
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
gives us strength,
You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards.
makes us noble.
And I know in my heart that it's right.
Good luck.
Okay, I've got one. And I've mentioned it before. I'm real big on the character making the sacrifice, and so watching it this time, and for some reason, the character of Bruce Wayne really stood out to me in a way I've never thought about with this series. Typically Bruce Wayne is just a stick in the mud, just kind of you're kind of counting the time before Batman shows up, and that's the point of the character. He's meant to be unassuming so that no one looks. He's like Clark Kent, he's meant to be just ignored basically so that no one suspects he's Bruce Wayne. But seeing Bruce in that, like I mentioned, in that room slumping against the door, just because of like, I have to go out there and be the clown,
Right.
just so that Batman can
Get a drink thrown in my face.
Yeah, like that. It just really resonated with me this time. I don't know why. It just really stood out to me. And it kind of, it's one of those moments in Dark Knight that I love that ending where Gordon is talking about, he's not being the hero, or well, maybe I'm mixing it up with a little bit of what Alfred says, but it's basically we have to chase him because we have to. He's the villain, and that's him actually being the hero. So I'm real big on sacrifice. Like in my stories, I like when someone chooses to do the hard thing, I guess, and that. For me here is Bruce just, like I said, just being the clown, being this character, Bruce Wayne, just to operate as Batman.
That's a good choice. I actually went with old James Gordon.
Oh, nice.
Sticking up for his buddy. Be like, no, this isn't Batman. I don't care if you don't believe me. I know Batman. He's a good friend of mine. He would never do this. Yeah. Gordon out.
Yeah. I'm sure that I'm going to leave Gotham, go on that vacation I've been talking about.
Yeah, I'm big on people being loyal to a fault.
Sure.
I love when characters are just like super loyal. There's just something about it that I just really speaks to me. And so seeing Gordon just absolutely not hearing a thing about Batman being bad, I love it. I'm like, man, he's a good friend.
Yeah.
If Bruce only knew how good of a friend he is.
All right. In lieu of that argument, I'll just assume that he's been working to exonerate Batman, and we just didn't get to see it.
Yeah. Right.
That
That's
it
on the
didn't
cutting
go to
room
the
floor.
Bahamas or something.
Yeah, there's like a post-credit
all work
scene
out.
where he
Yeah.
he throws a file on somebody's table. He's like, there you go. He's
The funny
exonerated.
like post credits Marvel scene for this would be Gordon showing back in, like he's got his fishing hat on. He comes back home after checks his messages and he's like, did I miss anything?
Yeah, I really didn't have any heroic moment. Like, Batman
there's not
didn't really
a ton
accomplish much.
Right. Yeah.
Like, he basically lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's really interesting because you're right, and it's a story that is not. It is not like an active story. It is a very reactive story, and in his reactions, we're revealing who this guy is for the first time.
Well, and that's why those
really
flashbacks are
interesting.
so important. Because, like I said, if you take out all that and it's just Batman chasing down a vigilante, you'd wrap this one up in 20 to 40 minutes and make it an episode or make it a two-parter or whatever. But it's that it's that history that really is the movie, and that's when like I said, I realized this is a Bruce Wayne movie. It's not a Batman movie.
Yep.
Yeah, he loses the girl. He loses his best friend Joker. The vigilante gets away. There's no upside.
As far as we know, he's still a fugitive.
Yeah. Batman's still under watch. I mean,
right? Yeah.
I guess he's got Alfred, but
Yeah.
and Alfred's happy in a weird way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But other than that, bummer for Batman on this one. Not his best outing. It's a weird movie. That's why the ending really weirded me out. Like, I'm just like, so Batman, the good guys didn't win? What?
Yeah, I mean, not really. Yeah, it's a weird one.
Well, that's why I was hoping Joker was in Arkham. It's like, maybe
it's up to you. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I think the ending just confused me more than anything. I was just like, okay, if she's alive, maybe the Joker's alive, but there's a magic cloud of dust. I don't know. It's very perplexing.
Well, at least now you have something to think about.
This was more of a character study than an action film.
Yes,
for sure.
And I think that's what I wasn't expecting, especially in a kids movie.
Right,
yeah, for sure. I mean, imagine being a kid and watching this.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can see why it bombed. Like, this isn't like a theater type like kids movie.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
Like, they don't have this isn't hitting a specific demographic you would think. This is hitting a more grown up demographic than the target of that cartoon.
Well, and I think this movie like basically made the blueprint for all of those DC direct-to-video movies that they made, that were all sort of like PG-13 and R.
Yeah.
You know,
God,
I
they
think
made a bunch
this
of
is the
those.
blueprint for that.
Oh yeah, I mean it works out in the end, but I could see why it bombed out of the gate, especially Christmas.
Well, I mean it was yeah. I mean there was no marketing on it. Is the reason that it bombed, because it wasn't in theaters long enough for it to have a word of mouth either way.
Yeah.
And I remember it being very, very well reviewed. So it's not like the reviews were bad. The reviews were really good.
But if you were taking Janie and Johnny to the movies after Christmas, I don't see word of mouth being great for other parents.
Sure.
It's like, oh yeah, take the kids. There's all this murder and ending that's morbid and questioning and really makes you think about life.
Yeah.
Kids will love it.
Yeah,
I would call it existential.
Yeah, kids love that. Yeah.
I mean,
get them some popcorn.
Pixar has figured it out. They can make grown adults cry and entertain children at the same time. But
that's true.
That's a little before that.
Yeah, I mean, there's not even any children in this.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single child in this entire.
There's no Robin.
Oh man.
It's all adults doing grown-up stuff.
Yep. Oh, that's great. But I mean, I guess it's time to rate it. I mean, all that being said, I give it a 5. I was at a 4.5 before we started talking about it. I think it's that good. But after watching it, I was like, yeah, that ending, it's a little vague. It's a little, I don't know, no one wins, but this and that. But having talked about it now, and Scott, you've made me come around and like, oh, now that I see the ending from a different perspective, I like it a lot more. It makes a lot more sense that, Joker's dead, and this is kind of the last Batman, not the last Batman adventure, because he didn't kill the Joker, but
right,
it works as a series finale for that series. And that really just I like it.
I mean it's a 5 for me. It's up there with like Spider-Verse as like my favorite superhero anything. I watch it annually. I love this movie. Like a lot, and it's so adult. And I get that it shouldn't be. It probably shouldn't be. But I'm so happy that it exists exactly the way that it does. And I just, and it's not adult in terms of like, there's death in it, but it's not like we see any of it. And it still pulls all of its punches in the way that you would expect. But it's dealing with these mature themes that like, if your audience is for kids, this is probably a failure. But as a work of art, I think this movie's incredible. So this is a 5 out of 5 for me. I absolutely adore this movie.
All right, Patrick.
Sorry, Patrick.
Yeah, I'm going. I'm going 3.5.
It's also I should say, like, I love this movie. I think it's a masterpiece, but like, I didn't think it was the first time I saw it either.
Sure.
It's a grower. And so
the
fact that this is the very first time, that you've seen it, I wouldn't have expected a 5 out of 5 rating from someone who was watching it for the first time.
I didn't know what I was getting into.
Yeah, exactly. I think now that you know what it is, in like a year, give it another watch. And I think that you'll appreciate it for what it is a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, the ending was just so perplexing because, like, I never took into account any inkling of this being, like, the finale of the animated series that just started a year previous. Like, I was confused. I didn't know the Joker was dead or if he was dead or, like, and then if he is dead, Batman's got, like, some thinking to do.
He's got
like he's gonna be like damaged after this. Like he's got no rep other than his boy Jim who went fishing. He's got like no lady, obviously. I don't know if he thinks she's dead or not. Alfred's a bit happy because he's not gonna go crazy after this ?
Right.
I could see this breaking him and fundamentally screwing him up. So I don't quite get Alfred's peppy tone. It's very weird and juxtaposed against emo Batman at this moment. Like I honestly don't get why Alfred's so confident that this didn't destroy him. Like I could see this going south real quick.
Oh,
Batman's not the most stable person to begin with, and this is a heavy ending.
Yeah.
Like the world hates him. His old lady that he thought he loved, at the very best scenario, just killed his villain and ran off. Worst case, she's dead too. Like, I don't see how this ends well, I guess. And it left me kind of like completely bummed out. And maybe that's the year we're in as well. So it's not the perfect timing. But yeah, I was just like,
I could see that as a first time viewing because you're right. Like,
match up. Like, I couldn't quite get, like, Alfred completely threw me off. Like, I don't know. Like, his attitude was just like,
so I liked it.
Did we experience the same thing? What? Why are you so like sure of yourself after a pretty hectic day? I don't know, because his parents getting killed did Batman to him. This has to have done additional damage, and the fact that the cops are after, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know, it just bummed me out.
That's the
at
one
end.
big question I have is like, how does he go on after this with his relationship with the police, and is even just with like the newspapers? Do they still think, because no one else ever finds out about the Phantasm as far as I can recall. You know,
closest I can hope for is that they do an autopsy on that explosion and can find the chemical in Sal. I don't. But I don't know how much left of Sal there is. So
yeah. Right.
I guess you got the congressman guy or the alderman, whatever he is, who's got the Joker juice.
I think there's enough. I think there's enough evidence that Batman could pull and give to Gordon, and then Gordon could clear his name.
Yeah,
do his detective skills.
You know, yeah, he has all the information to like lay out who did this and why. So,
because even then, it's the Joker, and then the Joker's dead by Batman's hands, allegedly. So it's a uphill struggle for sure. I mean, I don't know, man. This thing, I mean, it's a good movie. I liked it, but at the same time, it was just, I couldn't get a read on it. Like, I didn't know where we were going, and maybe it is because it was the first time, and I just was not ready.
I can definitely see, like, if you're going into this one thinking action adventure story, it's a left turn that you're not. You know,
I wasn't
someone
ready
said it
to
earlier.
think
It's a character introspection.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm putting it at 3.5 now, just because it was just jarring and.
Yeah, it's almost like Batman as like an Oscar bait movie. Like, that's kind of It's kind of its vibe. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll give it a 3.5 for now, but I could see myself rating it up. But I just gotta. I need more time than 8 hours to figure this thing out.
Yeah. You need to process it. Yeah.
But first impression, very disjointed in my mind, at least, as to how this all unfolds. At the very least, it's not a good look for Batman. Like, he did not have a good day. Nothing went his way. But at the very least, it was a thinker.
Yeah,
I just wasn't ready for it.
Another little weird tidbit. I watched through the credits, and at the credits, there's some of the gorgeous Shirley Walker music that we get throughout the movie, and I didn't even talk about that, but her work is amazing throughout the series, and but then that transitions into this song that it feels like it would have been a song from the Batman Returns, credits, when it's like this kind of 90s, not pop, but like
it's like a ballad.
Yeah, in it.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm curious what this is. If it was it written for this movie because it didn't feel thematically tied to the movie or anything, or just what it was. And it's a song called "I Never Even Told You," sung by Tia Carrera of Wayne's World fame.
Wow.
And
Oh yeah.
I think I forgot she was a recording artist at certain points.
Yeah, for sure.
That's her whole part in Wayne's World. You didn't know?
Well, that I know. I didn't think that was based in any,
In reality.
Yeah. That's just a weird little tidbit to end that on.
Interesting. Yeah. It was a weird little tidbit to end the movie on.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
So.
All right, I'm changing my number already.
Oh yeah.
I'll make it a 4. I'll make it a 4.
Okay.
Because if I would have known the Joker died, that would have made the movie a lot better to me. But I think, tainted by the animated series moving on, I just assumed he lived. And I thought it was a weak ending.
Sure.
So if he's dead, then that totally screws up what I had going on way after I watched this.
Sure.
So, yeah. Damn this movie. It's the first time I've flip-flopped like that. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Damn it. Oh, wait. Not second time that's happened. I remember another time, but I wasn't expecting a Batman animated movie to do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's why this movie appears on a lot of people's, like, what's your favorite Batman movie? Mask of the Phantasm, and it's a theatrical Batman movie, so, and the,
Yeah, I didn't even know that, so.
Yeah.
Other than it being on our list, I just assumed they're all straight to video.
Right.
Yeah.
They
all are, except this one.
Yeah. Well, let's see. What else is there to do? I think, Scott, I want to thank you for joining us, coming back on the show, and taking a closer look at Mask of the Phantasm with us. And
oh yeah, happy to do it. Love it.
Go ahead and feel free to plug away and let our listeners know where they can find you. And
yeah, sure. You can find me. I'm on social media as myself. I'm just at Scott Carelli on basically everything. And the big thing that I would want to plug, I think, right now is, I have a podcast network called Dueling Genre. You can check that out at duelinggenre.com. But I also created and write a original scripted narrative podcast called Geek by Night with a full cast, and it's a story about comic book geeks who get superpowers and try to become superheroes. And it's sort of this comedy drama, sort of like in the stylings of like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but about superheroes. And it's a fun ensemble show, and I'm really proud of it. And we are sort of taking it in for a landing right now. The final episode is going to be the 40th episode of the series. And so there are, I don't know when this is airing, but there's currently, I think, 33 episodes out, and we're going to reach 40, which will be the series finale of the series. And I'm really proud of it. And I'm really proud of all the work that everyone has been doing on it. And I'm really excited for people to check it out. So check it out. It's called Geek by Night, and I think it's really great. And if you've never listened to a scripted narrative podcast before, maybe check it out. Because if you're listening to this show, the target audience between you and Geek by Night, it's a circle.
Yeah,
that Venn diagram is a full circle. So check it out, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
See, Scott knows how to target an audience, but this movie doesn't.
Yeah. Well, again, Scott, thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll get you on in the future and find something else to talk about.
Yeah.
Yes,
Patrick? What's next for us?
We're going to an oldie but a goodie.
Oh, yeah?
We've got tragedy and behind the scenes, obviously, but
yeah.
We have 1994's The Crow.
Ooh.
Yeah, jumping into 1994 finally.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited because I love this movie.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it probably since like '98.
Oh wow, okay.
So
yeah.
It's been a minute. I think the sequels kind of ruined the franchise for me.
Yeah. I watched this one a lot, from 94 till like through the 2000s. I watched it quite a bit, but it's been several years now. But yeah, I guess that's going to do it on this one. So good job out there, citizens. You know what you did.
People once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. But sometimes, just sometimes, the crow can bring that soul back to put the wrong things right. Real love is forever.
The Crow.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Find the show on Facebook and Twitter at Real Comic Heroes. All music and audio are the property of their respective creators.